Today, I'd like to make the case for the universal design for learning and how UDL, as we call it, can make your teaching more effective. Universal design for learning is designed for students with learning disabilities. However, the lesson will benefit all learners. When all learners feel that school is designed with them in mind, they will develop a strong sense of belonging, which will have a powerful positive impact on overall school culture and student achievement. To the right is a video with a deeper introduction to the universal design for learning and the three principles and all the guidelines that reflect it. And below it is the PDF version. Flexibility is key. Think about why YouTube, Netflix, podcasting, and Audible are such successful industries. One of the factors that contribute to their success is the fact that these companies offer services that provide customers with the flexibility and variety to meet their interests and their specific time constraints, which brings these companies much success. People can watch or listen to what they like when they can in the format that works best for them. UDL does the same thing for teaching and learning by considering how we can make content more accessible to the most amount of students with minimal effort. The principle of representation is the first principle of the three principles of UDL. It essentially looks at the what of learning. Teachers should ask themselves, are we presenting information in multiple ways? Is the content clear to all students? In other words, have we considered language, expressions, and symbols and not just assumed that students know what they mean? Has the content been scaffolded in a way that builds on prior knowledge and creates opportunities to apply new knowledge in new ways? To the right, you will find a link to a Nearpod site. Nearpod is a website that uses multiple forms of representation to provide information for students in multiple ways. Below to the left will be the PDF version should you choose to take a look at that. The principle of action and expression refers to the how of learning. Teachers would want to ask themselves whether or not students have options to show how they've learned. This essentially is very closely connected to accessibility requirements. You should also ask yourself if students can use a variety of tools to show what they've learned. Not only should you ask yourself if they have the option to use a variety of tools, but you should also consider whether the students know how to use those tools. And then the last question you can ask yourself is whether the task is clearly explained and understood so that students can focus on applying their learned knowledge and not necessarily trying to understand what the task is. The third principle of UDL is the principle of engagement, and it focuses on the why of learning. This is where student motivation comes into play. Teachers want to ask themselves whether students know and understand the content learning objectives throughout the lesson. Do students see any relevance of the content learning objectives in their lives? Teachers will want to consider whether their background experiences, that is, the background experiences of students, were considered when designing the lesson. Teachers should also ask themselves whether students can monitor their own progress in achieving the learning objectives in order to create a much more authentic experience for them. If you click on the image to the right, it will bring you to an example of a project-based learning assignment that is adapted in order to apply the principle of engagement. How can you implement UDL where you work? UDL at South Country is something that I will be working closely with. I am currently a member of my school district's equity committee. On June 9th, our Board of Education approved an equity, inclusivity, and diversity in education policy in which we demonstrate our commitment to creating more equitable schools. I am proud and excited to continue this movement with them and plan on introducing and promoting strategies like UDL with our staff. I will be asking my district to help support teachers in this task by providing professional development opportunities to teachers and administrators to learn about UDL. Administrators should also learn about the policies and guidelines of UDL in order to better understand how to support their teachers. Providing teachers time and space to work in collaboration with colleagues on developing UDL-centered unit lesson plans will be another way I will be asking my district to support the teachers. The third thing I will be asking for is to provide teachers with opportunities to reflect upon the UDL process and implementation, with opportunities to collaborate on ways to improve their practice. The last support I'll be asking for our teachers in our district is to provide them with clear and constructive and UDL specific feedback to help teachers develop their practice in the future. By using the Universal Design for Learning as one of the many equity promoting strategies, our district will be well on its way to creating more inclusivity and equity in our school district.